Ahead of the Chinese GP, all the talks are around Mercedes and Ferrari, but it's not that straightforward. The possibility of Red Bull being the third contender for the race win is still a real possibility. Let's break it down. The current pecking order in F1 is Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull. However, this is a misconception. The Australian GP that just passed was a street track. In F1, every race is not just a street race. The way the Australian GP circuit is laid out by design is unique and tends to advantage certain car characteristics as opposed to an overall aerodynamic efficiency. The Australian GP was a low grip and high tyre degradation circuit, which goes through much change over the course of a race weekend. Since not all tracks are this way and none are very similar to it, the finishing positions we got out of the race may not have been the true competitive order. I won't go on more about this because it's very nerdy, but just know teams may not have been running their engines at maximum capacity as they were concerned for reliability. Nearly all engine manufacturers failed at some point. With this, Mercedes are being slightly overhyped. Everyone and their dog seems to be tipping George to win both the upcoming races and the championship this year, but F1 has never been that simple. Their gap ahead of Ferrari is minimal, and this was perfectly showcased at Australia. Lewis Hamilton, who was the more comfortable of the two Ferrari drivers on the day, was consistently lapping quicker than George Russell and nearly on par with Kimi Antonelli. Had Ferrari not made their strategy blunder, it may have been possible that Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc would have been able to win the race. Mercedes does have a pace advantage at the moment. However, with differing tracks and track conditions, that is not set in stone. Ferrari will run their Macarena wing, and this will assist them in their bids for a greater top speed and braking abilities. Ferrari are making waves again and are firmly in the fight. Now, when we look at Red Bull, the situation is a bit different. Pace-wise, they're right there. For now, the estimates say that Red Bull sits about 4.5 tenths behind Mercedes and 2.5 tenths behind Ferrari. But there are two major issues that make this a bit of a dirty and inaccurate number. Red Bull and where they actually rank can't properly be distinguished because their competitive car in China, Isaac Hadjar, who had started P3, was forced to retire by lap 12. Meaning the data that would have been collected from his car, his pace and how his car would have reacted through the race was insufficient. Max Verstappen started from 20th on the grid. This would mean Max would have faced a significant amount of traffic, which in turn would have caused him to face dirty air, which leads to more tyre degradation. The more tyre degradation a driver faces, the less grip he has and thus is unable to drive the car to its true potential. Because of this, we don't have accurate or true information on Red Bull's actual pace. Therefore, ruling them out without them having a fair chance to show their potential is silly. Mercedes showed impressive ability to manage their tyres in Australia, as Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton did not have enough pace to catch and pass them on much fresher tyres in the latter half of the Australian Grand Prix. Their car is quick, as seen by the 7/10 qualifying gap they put together, but they are not runaway favourites. Because of Ferrari being so close and Red Bull still being an unknown, Mercedes could be first, second or even third at this stage. Ferrari and Red Bull are clear threats. Especially after the findings from Australia, Ferrari has the fastest cornering speeds amongst all cars. With China sectors 1 and 2, which are dominated by corners, this could mean that Ferrari will have an advantage. For Mercedes to fight back, it would be on the third sector with the massive long straights where Mercedes' current advantage lies. Red Bull's car looks behind, but it may just appear that way due to the failures they suffered in the qualifying and the race. China may be a completely different ballgame if Red Bull has come to understand how their car operates, which, if one had to put his money on, would be a pretty good bet. We could see a great battle or several battles happening on the Shanghai circuit between these three constructors. None can be ruled out for the win. All eyes will be on George Russell. If he does 2 in a row, it basically cements that he has a car underneath him and he has the ability to take it home. But with much pressure, can he deliver? Especially now knowing that he will have to race the Ferraris and his teammate, if we exclude the Red Bull temporarily. You have one of the most naturally talented drivers ever in Charles Leclerc, 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton, and the protégé extraordinaire Kimi Antonelli. If George wants to prove he is world champion material, now's the perfect time to do so. His data from Australia was promising. He was the third quickest car on pace on the day. Him being at the front and leading the race allowed him to do more tyre saving, so that's why he wasn't the quickest car on base. This shows us that George is quite comfortable with how the car is performing and he's able to extract pace out of it. He still has all the boxes checked in qualifying, where he was about 3/10 clear of teammate Antonelli. Russell will still be favourite walking into the Chinese GP, and let's see if he will deliver on that promise. All I can say is George's results from the Chinese GP weekend will be a peek into whether he actually has what it takes to win the championship this year. Let's speak a bit about the Chinese circuit and try to understand which cars will gain benefit and be fast around here. It's a bit of an oddball track, a 56 lap race with turns 1 and 2 being very tight in a twisting motion. Pirelli bring the C2, C3 and C4 tyre compounds to run. Your braking and lateral loads become very important on this track. If a team is bad on the hard tyres, the C2, it's going to be a very painful race. We saw a small indication of that with Verstappen in Australia, but once again the data is not totally stable due to the completely different kind of race he had to run from all the way down in P20. Clipping is going to be very bad on the straights. However, in the middle sector where there are a ton of twisty and windy medium speed corners, you can maintain a decent level of battery. The middle sector, as we mentioned earlier, one would think it will be all Ferrari there, and the straights are where we're expecting the Mercedes to come alive and the whole compression ratio thing to take effect. If we do consider Mercedes as favourites, there are huge opportunities for Ferrari here due to a large portion of the track having corners where we can expect Ferrari to try and make a run for it. With a talented qualifying specialist like Charles Leclerc or a master of the Shanghai Circuit like Lewis Hamilton, pole could be on the cards for them. And if they can utilize their teammate well, Ferrari is in with a good shout to win, provided they don't get in their own way. Red Bull also comes with an opportunity here. It's safe to say Max will probably have beat Hadjar in qualifying had he competed in Australia. So in qualifying, there's probably more pace on the table for the Red Bull. The Red Bull also does look like it's able to hook in quick laps. If it's on agreeable tyres, possibly an alternate tyre strategy or some safety cars, that will bring them in nicely to have a shout at the win. Teams would definitely be making plans for safety cars and VSCs happening, especially while we're still so early in the new regs. A lot of failures could come about. The drivers to watch for a race win would be Russell, Antonelli, Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen, and possibly even Hadjar, who could have a run at it. The midfield battles we're expecting it to be between Audi, Haas and Racing Bulls. All had at least one driver who looked very impressive in Australia, and let's see if they can carry that momentum over to China. These would be my predictions for the Chinese GP. In P5, Kimi Antonelli, quite a high-speed circuit, and Kimi, due to inexperience, there are a lot of places it could go wrong here. Many mistakes can be made. He doesn't seem completely up to pace qualifying-wise yet. If Ferrari and Red Bull, possibly even McLaren, have found out how to balance their car for qualifying, we will find Kimi slightly lower down the order on the grid. Thus, I'm placing him P5 for China. In P4, Charles Leclerc. Charles has never been too good at China. His highest finish and qualifying position here is P4. Lewis does look more in tune with the car this year, as we saw in China. Charles probably will have a bit of a tricky time and end up P4 around China. In P3, Max Verstappen. Max, due to us really not understanding Red Bull yet, I think they are much closer than they appear. And Max always seems to be able to pull out a better result than what the car is capable of. Max will be highly competitive here and spring up on the podium. If we have safety cars or VSCs, Max could even climb up to the top 2 positions. But for now, I'm placing him in 3rd. In P2, Lewis Hamilton. Lewis is the most successful driver ever on the Chinese GP circuit, with 6 wins and 6 poles. Nobody loves or knows this track as well as him on the grid. With him looking very confident in the car after Australia, I anticipate Lewis to have a fantastic race and truthfully can even win. I think he'll take the sprint and be P2 in the race. Only thing that makes me apprehensive regarding Lewis is that last year we saw his qualifying struggles, and if he qualifies badly here and finds himself in a bit of traffic, he will struggle to get through and probably won't end up on the top step. In P1, George Russell. The whole video I ramble on about how Mercedes are not favourites and then put Russell as the winner. Don't click off yet. Limiland. I think George will live up to the pressure. After the Australian buzz, I think George has got his big boy pants on now, and he's going to show us all that he's a real championship contender this year. He'll find a way, he'll figure it out. His Mercedes does look very good on its tyres, and George is a highly capable driver. I am saying he'll win the Grand Prix. It won't be a breeze or a walk in the park, but with the efficiency of the Mercedes and the help of his car, George will get it done and go 2 for 2 in 2026. There you have it. Let me know if you're backing Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, or someone else. Comment your top 5 down below. I'll see you guys in China.